And to your point, Doc, um, we can get in. I don't know how much. I don't. How familiar you are with the code of conduct, um, but we can link that to you, and it has these little blurbs about what turtle, wolf, and bear are. As it relates to the stacks ecosystem, as particularly, but also some of its indigenous context, some of its context in decision making that we spoke to earlier today. And so, to speak a little bit more on clans, I don't know if you've been in meetings with the Jabali. I think recently we kind of went through this, right? Which is, these traits, right? That I spoke to, uh, uh, that I speak to in these sessions, right? As it relates to decision making and being able to attach core values of a given system to decision making, right? In indigenous context, it's the core values of their cosmologies, right? Which obviously include ecosystems and such. And this is something that hopefully is also conducive to Web3, right? This consideration of ecosystems, women's freedom, um, privacy, in addition to privacy and open source and user-empowered internet, right? Decentralization in that sense, right? But it's and obviously distributed power, right? Which is a big part of this session here today. But it's uh, uh, you know deeper in the sense, right? If you haven't heard, right, in this context, right, I really look at it in the form in the realm of physics, turtle, wolf, and bear, right? The longhouse will do this oftentimes too, related to protons, neutrons, and electrons, or turtle, wolf, and bear related to temperatures, pressures, densities, right? These fundamental elements of organization, of um, you know uh, regeneration, even, right? And so this is the way that I look at it as of late, right? In terms of, like I said, tracking for balance earlier on in this session. I don't know if you're with us yet, but one of the ways that I began to see it is, I don't know if you guys followed a while back in the world of large hadron colliders. There was a lot of excitement around this Higgs boson, or this uh, God particle, as they were calling it, right? Uh, but it was essentially this 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 element that you know flashes in and out of existence, and you need that that fancy camera work to capture it just in time to see it. And it's like a grain in a Olympic-sized swimming pool to your chances of finding this thing. And they found it. That's how many resources they dedicated to that, right? But it seems these indigenous modes understood, this concept and others like it without having to, go to that expense. And because turtle very much reminds me of this Higgs boson in the way they described it. They described it as the grid-like structure the invisible grid-like structure that gives matter its mass, right? And turtle in the indigenous language is referred to as the owner of the house, right? But this is much deeper than that language, because it's referring to engineering, right? The way an engineer would understand the blueprint of a home and understand where everything is in that home because of that engineering understanding, right? And so, but this is in relation to, the laws of sustainability, laws of physics, and this deep understanding. So this is a trait of turtle, right? This type of knowledge. Um, uh, this the linguistics also translate to it puts its head in its shell. Uh, this reference to knowledge inside of the shell and outside of the shell, right? This the pre-structure inside of a turtle shell that had to be there before the outer shell can be constructed, as it's literally forming, right? Um, so this is uh, almost a reference to the knowledge of pre-physics and physics in that sense, right? This this knowledge of both worlds in that sense, right? So, and part of their traits in decision making is being in general organization, are to be observers and validators against this understanding, this strong understanding of core collective values, of constitution in that older sense, what makes us all up, right? Our home in terms of the planet, right? That sense of constitution, right? Knowing where everything is in that sense, in engineering sense, knowing the home in that sense, right? So this is again, the way that turtle is really embodies the protection of ecosystems and validating everything against that protection, right? And that fundamental law of sustainability, regenerative sustainability, right? And so this can be extrapolated into the SACS ecosystem by looking at, of course, engineers is maybe the most obvious sense, but particularly the engineers that are not hyper-specialized but interdisciplined. And so they can look at all these different parts of the ecosystem, give you a whole picture of what's going on technically, but also maybe give you a whole picture of what's going on values-wise, right? Give you the real essence and spirit of the ecosystem, right? And so this is, I think, one of the big ways we can start to identify turtles, right, in the Stacks ecosystem, right? That they are, hyper convicted about open source, super convicted about, privacy and user-empowered internet, right? Jude is one of the people that comes to my mind, right? Now, I know everybody has their own political ideologies and whatnot, but there's I don't there's also these same folks that have shown openness, and a big reason why we're here now, right, is understanding the flaws in some of the more conventional political ideologies and a genuine, thirst for design solutions, right, and engineering solutions to the political problems that we have, right, to drive them to the openness to allow us to be here talking about this right now, in a myriad of ways and of support, right, and so folks like Jude or others that we can feel their grasp of the value system, right, of the collective of the sex ecosystem, right, and maybe are not always so visible, right. These are the observers, almost hinting at that they're not the ones that you see all the time actively in the mix, right? But nonetheless are the master architects, right? And have a big part in the blueprint, everything that we're doing. That speaks to a lot of what was the core Blockstack team to me, right? To make concrete some of this clan and extrapolate it out across not just advocates, but the ecosystem as a whole, right? And going into Wolf Clan, right? This is traits that are specific to initiators. Right? Some of the linguistics, the indigenous context for Wolf Clan is the well, right? Gathering the minds for consensus, right? Is a critical function in the system design of indigenous, indigenous bottom-up horizontal systems, but also in the function of organization, right? A catalyst, an initiator, is extremely important, right? And so when you have that invisible grid, to have any type of anything, right? You need an initiator, you need a catalyst. Otherwise, you just have that invisible grid, and you don't have much forming, right? Not much morphology of anything. You need that catalyst, and this is Wolf Clan, always pushing the ecosystem forward, picking up issues, of voices, making sure that issues are lodged in the well, so that every voice has access to their power, their voice being heard in decision making. This is a big part of how uh, any and everybody has the capacity to have their voice in consensus. Is this function of the well, both in the members of the Wolf Clan and in the folks that opt into responsibility of Wolf Clan representatives, both female and male. And so these are some of the big traits of Wolf, right? And to me, one of the first people that pops in my mind in the Sax ecosystem is Friedger. I don't know how familiar you are with Friedger, Doc, or I think everybody has to be in some way or shape or form because he's always moving, right? He's always pushing the ecosystem forward. As soon as the technologies come out, going back to my first days in the ecosystem in 2016, as soon as something's possible in the ecosystem, he's jumping on it, biting a hold onto it, right, and not letting go until he has something to show us and we have something to learn, right, in terms of how clarity works, how client-side applications work, right? He's always one of the first people, right, doing this, or one of the first people hopping on important issues that come up in the ecosystem, ensuring that the conviction of open source, conviction of privacy is present, right? Amongst other things, right? Friedger's voice is one of the first voices that made me feel comfortable to talk about indigenous modes and sustainability of ecosystems in this space, because Friedger at the formation of the foundation is like, hey, how do we build in protection for ecosystems going forward, right? Just a comment in a thread somewhere in a Discord, but nonetheless, it sparked something in me, right? And was a big catalyst for myself getting more and more involved in governance in the ecosystem. So this is, a good example of a wolf, always moving, being a catalyst, pushing the ecosystem forward. And this can take many forms, right? That can take the shape of dev work. That can take the shape of community work. That can take the shape of more specific engineering work beyond what Friedger may be doing even, right? There can be wolves at all of those levels in all of these different ways, right? There can be a turtle designer, a wolf designer, and a bear designer, right? All designers, but have different approaches to the same thing, right? And so, but this is a little bit of what what we can think of it in terms of Wolf Clan for yourself, Doc, and others that haven't heard some of this already. And Bear Clan, lastly, but definitely not least, is important again for once there's something sparked, initiated, you need that to evolve for you to have anything, the organization of anything. Again, for that matter to get its mass, right? There has to be the morphology of something. There has to be evolution of something, along with that spark. And so after that spark, you need it to grow. You need it to evolve. And so this is where Medicine Clan comes in, Wolf Clan, the knowledge of all transition, right? The indigenous linguistics translate to Ait Oscara, or the orange stuff inside of a tree when it falls over, right? When it's at the end of its life cycle, transition, right? And the inside of that tree transitions into, food for that bear. That bear transitions into some type of medicine for the ecosystem, right? But this important function of transformation, evolution, right? Medicine. Also translates to bridge work, right? Folks coming into an ecosystem of Web3 is different than coming from a Web2 world. There's a need for transformation there, for example, right? The transformation away from proprietary to open source thinking and logic about innovation, right? Being locked and unlocked, right? There's transformation coming into indigenous dialogue and horizontal modes of organizing together, and and traumas to grow out of, evolve out of, in terms of existing in top-down concentrated power, exploitative structures, right? Transformation, bridge work, right? So anybody who has a knack for this, right, any of those layers, could be doing bear work or maybe identifies as a bear. And that, again, can take in the shape of dev work, can take the shape of community work, can take the shape of governance-specific stuff, right? So this is a little bit of I very much consider myself, often doing bear work, right? whether it's the context of direct Indigenous dialogue when I'm in that context, or oftentimes when I'm in this context with you guys, right? Obviously, we all have all three of these clans in us. If we were born into an Indigenous context, we'd get this clan from our mother, but we have a stronger one or dominant one at any point in time, and you can almost look to these other ones. It's not as dominant as form of getting stronger in a fundamental way in yourself, right, within yourself, or within the collective, right? So these clans are also not static, right? In terms of us learning these clans, they're temporary to allow us the chance to learn them. To Ryder's points earlier, they're also not static in the sense of even when they are more official, the way that we use them, right? And even if I'm Wolf Clan, if I'm within a Wolf Clan meeting, if I see it's more conducive to me to go into my bear traits, go into my turtle traits, right? This is what's going to make consensus a little easier when we can name these fundamental elements of organization while we're organizing, right? And as we have a mind for consensus and peace and coming to positions as opposed to majority vote and splitting our minds before we even have a chance to come to consensus, right? These are some of the things that we're most familiar with precisely because they were, we have a diluted form of these indigenous protocols that we are most familiar with, right? Where they remove consensus and put in majority vote, right? The same way that you remove regenerative commons and you add chattel slavery, right? You remove the voices of women and you add exploitive ecological practices, right? These are things that were all diluted from what, so-called founding fathers of democracy were learning when they were sitting on these same 201 Wampum councils that we sit on, right? So it shows the historical moment that we're in bridging this gap into the next, digital age, right? We're still in the beginning of this digital age, so we have a unique opportunity for correction in indigenous dialogue, right? This clan system is a big means of our capacities for that dialogue, right? Just like the founding fathers, obviously, and other folks, right, didn't have a capacity for that dialogue. A big part of that lack of capacity was a lack for space for women, right? Not even a thought of it, right? So there's not really dialogue happening, right? The same way that there's, if there's interference, right, in countries when they're trying to come to authentic diplomacy, if there's espionage, it's not genuine dialogue. Even today, as we're not in the circumstances of the 13 colonies where, literally women didn't have a voice. But we could likely still be in that situation and not know it if we haven't grown into structures that ensure the autonomy of with dialogue, right? Ensure that we're not interfering with voices of women or ecosystems, and then coming to the table and acting like there's dialogue, right? Just giving lip service to these things. We have to have functional built-in mechanisms for these things, and the clan system and the autonomous processes that come along with the clan system are a big part of ensuring that in the decision-making process, right, you have Turtle, that master architect, observing the deliberation, validating what you're saying in deliberation against the sustainability of ecosystems, against the freedoms of women, right, and sending the issue back if it doesn't align, and passing it if it does. It's of the good mind, right? So this is a big part of what we're doing here at Turtle, Wolf, and Bear, and I hope that at least clarifies some things, Doc, to say the least. But thanks for enduring us in these sessions. I know sometimes it feels like you're thrown into the deep water, and to be honest, it's because you are. But it happens to be a hot day, metaphorically too. So hopefully it feels good. But yeah, I hope that resonated with folks too. You know, it's useful to repeat that out loud for myself too once in a while, to get a good sense of how this all applies for us. But yeah, I know we're about 10 minutes over the hour now. I'll leave the floor open. I'll keep in mind what Jabali was saying about doing, and I think we all should when we leave this session. I think I'll be making some changes to the document, but I'll also be reaching out to fellow clan folks, right, and seeing if we can get some testing of this tooling done right inside the server. Give a caveat that this is just testing, so people don't think we're making decisions without them. But yeah, I'll leave the floor open. Any comments, questions? Juliet, it's beautiful to have you, by the way. Let me know if I just don't hear anybody speaking. Sometimes Discord does that to me. But yeah, Juliet, I know we were recently speaking about some of the work you're doing with connecting all of what we're doing to some of the legal frameworks going on in DAO, in the world of DAOs, and in the world of Ivy League, law, circles, and I don't know if any of today's sessions stuck out to you in addition to our recent meetings around any of this, but it's some of the details in that document and what were discussed here is. I know part of what lends itself to legitimacy, right, and some of our discussions there, and some of the discussions happening in those circles, which Primavera is a big part of, right, having a big part of some of the legal discussions in blockchain-based systems. But yeah, regardless, it's beautiful to have you with us, Juliet.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking. When we were talking about legal frameworks, really it's illegal, not all one word, being something I was listening to Primavera yesterday about, which is that place that's between illegal and legal. So where there can be a gray area. So where you can enact and create new institutions or ex-institutions. Got a lot of good stuff I'm going to share with you on ex-institutions, so kind of excited about that. But today was really for me playing with Ryder and being the woman, the only woman so far in the Wolves clan, and we're pretty excited about that, and we're excited about, I'm not speaking for you, Ryder, but and I apologize if I did say something that trying to speak for you, but I am excited about the whole Women's Council and all the things you were saying today about women and women's voice, and I'm excited to hear that, and I'm excited to start working with other wolves and testing all this out, because I think this is I like that this is the next step. And then I have a question, which is where does everyone think, what is the idea about testing it? Should we, or there's no shoulds or anything, and I'm not asking for permission. I'm just looking to everyone who has ideas about how to test and, around decision making, around other things like that. So just wanting to hear everyone's thoughts process about testing the different roles, etc.
I guess I'll take this time to chime in. I was kind of just listening to everyone. Hold on, guys. So I was kind of just listening to everyone, and the one thing I have noticed about stacks, regardless of what part of like I guess the stacks community you're in, is it's really truly focused on equality for everyone and everyone having an equal voice. And I do absolutely love that about stacks. I mean, you go and you look up NFTs, you got like Stacks Women, you got Women Power, you got all those awesome NFTs that are focused around women and equality. And it's just something that I personally love to see. And I did want to touch back on what Gold said. Yeah, for me, learning it can be a challenge. So it took me entirely too long to learn Bitcoin and the blockchain and finally have that down. So coming in here and trying to learn, like it's taking me a bit longer than I think some would, but I'm really trying to nail it down. So.
No, thank you kindly, Doc. It's understandable. Yeah, I understand there's multiple layers of learning curves going on there, and it's plenty understandable. And to be honest, I'm not the fastest on the learning curve by any stretch of the imagination. I lurk around in one server for about a couple years, and that's pretty much my pace. And I'm pretty much dependent on the momentum behind me in that regard. But to your point, Juliet. Yeah, it's extremely important that we start to think out loud about how we're thinking about picking up this stuff and testing it ourselves, and then that's kind of what I was touching on earlier, right? Trying to encourage us all, like kind of what you were saying, Juliet, about just getting together with the wolves that there are there, right? And just hopping in those active issues channels, right? After deciding on a period of a window of time that you want to give each other to go back and forth in dialogue, right? Considering your scheduling and time zones, right? And just get going, right? In terms of consensus, right? Within our respective clans, right? With those autonomous processes in place. So the women wolves will be getting together with the women wolves, the male wolves getting together with the male wolves. And then there have to be some communication between the two, right? Once we realize that these things are up and going, without representatives who are usually be the go-between between these autonomous processes, right? We're going to have some of us picking up that responsibility of the heads again, right? Until we have somebody who, until we have representatives that we all select and trust. This is what we'll have to do. And so, spelling that out in this session together, I know is kind of what you were asking, Juliet, and I'm grateful for it, because I think that is one of my biggest hopes for this session is that the folks here, we have so many of us here, that we can probably get some steam rolling, right, with the folks that aren't here when they see us testing this stuff out, right? Maybe they'll come in and say, hey, can we change the quorum period to this time because of my schedule, right? Can we change the meeting time, the real-time meeting, to this time because of my time zone, right? And we'll get the ball rolling in that way. But that's pretty much the process that'll be going on, right? And hopefully it'll lend itself, Juliet, to even respective clans saying, hey, for our clan we need this in the tooling, right? Because our flow is this, and the other clan will say, hey, we need this in our tooling because our flow is specifically this, right? So these are some of the things that we're hoping for. So thank you kindly, Juliet, for the question.
I just thought of something kind of awkward. Just since like I already know that Juliet and I are like the female wolf clan, so I'm like, okay, like one of us or both of us are reps or assistant reps or whatever. And then, I think about what Hero said the other day of like just choosing some people to be reps and trying it out. But the wolf reps, like, as far as I understand it, have a pretty specific role to like bring issues and I think I need that process. I need to understand more about the structure of that process, because I feel like that's a lot of consequence on the wolf reps. Like, here's the awkward thing, right? I'm like, oh, this is an issue, and I bring it, and I'm like, yo, like, turtles, this sounds like your thing. And turtles are like, nah, it's not our thing. Yo, bears, this sounds like your, nah, it's not our thing. Like, how do I, what does it mean to just be a wolf and be wrong all the time? Or like to think that maybe this thing needs to be deliberated and then have like the reps be like, actually no. Or like that feels like that could be hard. And also like, yeah, we're initiators. Like, the reason why I identify was wolf is because I'll be an initiator whether I'm a wolf or not, you know. But like, and that's something I face as like a person with these like traits or like energies about me anyway. It's just like being wrong a lot. And like taking risks and like initiating and like bringing ideas to people. But I'm wondering how these structures or these systems can support me.
This is beautiful, right? Because, it's an important point of clarity, right? Just because, for example, like you're saying, maybe there's only 2 people in a wolf clan, right? Doesn't mean if me and Haas are the only ones in wolf clan, just hypothetical, right? I'm not a wolf at all. But if hypothetical, if it's just me and Haas, doesn't mean that automatically I'm a rep and Haas is a subhead, right? Because we haven't selected reps, right? This is something that, right, the indigenous language, right? Aoteo tansa the Gundi Nakarat Gawas, right? Or Tagundu Nakarat Gawas, right? This is referencing the sole authority, right, of the women to select title holders, both female and male. And authority is in the context of consensus. It's only a reference to sequencing of understanding regeneration before you understand extraction, or understanding regeneration before you extract, I should say, as a means for long-term sustainability, right? And if you flip that sequence, the dangers of it, right? And so that's what it means by matrilineal authority and sole authority. And with context considered, or consensus considered in that context, you get hopefully a clearer picture of just the amount of weight and responsibility that comes with that selection of the indigenous translation is the best of us, which when you're talking about wolves being wrong, I was thinking of a wolf with its nose not working so well, right? This isn't the best of us, or maybe this isn't the best of us yet, right? In terms of wolves. So this isn't somebody who would be selected through consensus as a wolf rep, right? If in the hypothetical, and this is to your points of like the pressure, the responsibility of all of that, right? Just because people are selected for representatives, because people see, wow, that person is the best of us. Hopefully they will take on the responsibility of representing us and facilitating and gathering us, but that person can always say no, right? Like that person can opt out of like, I am not ready for that amount of responsibility of representing what can grow to be an entire nation in that indigenous context, right? And this is okay, right? You can't ever be selected again once you opt out, right? In that sense, right? In the indigenous context, if I'm not mistaken about those protocols. But it's, it's a heavy thing that you should sleep on at the very least. And so I think this speaks a little bit to what you're talking about, right? In terms of like the responsibility that is on a wolf rep, but isn't going to be on us in this testing phase, for example, right? Like none of us, even if it's just a handful of us, and a lot of the facilitation responsibilities do fall on us by default, where none of us have opted in or been selected, for this heavy responsibility, and we're going to be very reliant on each other to facilitate this getting done, right? Like, and not all of us are. You can be Wolf Clan and not be involved in governance at all, right? Especially in the indigenous context, right? You're just born into Wolf Clan, right? You could have nothing to do with the everyday administrative responsibilities of a Wolf Clan rep, right? These are very distinct things in terms of even in the indigenous context. So the same should apply for us here. But hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully. Yeah.
I'm just mesmerized by the chimes. That's all. Yeah. I thank you, Harold. I was listening and you said a lot. I don't really have anything to say right now, but thank you.
Oh no, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, hopefully it gives you some relief. That was the goal. Hopefully I didn't bury it. But yeah, the goal is to hopefully give you some relief in some of the responsibility that can be felt. I think we all should feel a little responsibility to the collective and the weight of the opportunity. Also get to know each other a little bit more. Right, this tooling is essentially engendering real time meetings with each other. And so it can be a helpful tool in that way across time zones and whatnot. So thank you, Ryder, for that question. Really, yeah, I appreciated it in that way. But yeah. Yeah, so let's do it. I'll let you guys go. I might be, if you're in my clan, I might be, reaching out to you. If you don't have a clan, you'll be, Bear Clan by default. Um, and you can be involved in these efforts. If you have already started to identify just in these sessions with the clan, feel free to temporarily, you know, put yourself in the Wolf Clan or Turtle Clan or whatnot, right? And just reach out to one of us. I'll make sure to include your name in the document there, so that you don't forget. Other folks know as well, as they try to organize with you with this tooling. So yeah, and Ryder, I know you wanted to work on an announcement around some of this stuff. So maybe this is something that also comes along. But those of us here in these sessions shouldn't feel a blocker for getting going on testing some of this stuff out right away. Hero and folks that have been looking forward to doing this for some time now. I know you probably have itchy fingers in that sense, so we can get going.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that the announcement, like Carol said, was just to reach more people, folks who haven't been in discussion. Some people, just keep their @ mentions on for individual mentions and show up for like one-on-one interviews and when stuff gets going. So it's a good time for that. But what I probably will end up posting is like individual, so it's like, hey, like here's the other people in that clan, type of thing. And so if y'all already know that, or if you're, since everyone in this room I think has been looking at that document or has it readily in the chat right now, like that's where you can look for that. And I just want to point out to some of the new folks, I'm just going to point out like a logistical thing. If you look somebody up in your clan, right? So here's I'm just going to go on a flow for a second. I'm a wolf. When I was first thinking about us all gathering, I thought, oh, I want to know who wolves are. Like I'd like a wolf @ mention, right? And I'm not saying that I'm going to make one or that we need one, but this is autonomous processes, this is autonomous process. Like I might want this as a part of the clan. And so like if somebody wanted something like that, wanted an @ mention or something, but you're new or you don't have the membership or authority or moderation level, just look to your group and see who has like CM2 or CM3, and you can just I just want to encourage people to reach out to their clan members about like any kind of like organizing needs they might be looking into for their clan. So I'm just trying to promote, like, we are in an environment that is a platform that has permissions, that keeps people from reaching in certain ways, but like we don't have to have that in our clans. Like you can reach for people in these autonomous spaces in ways that you think would be helpful to like get y'all together. And so I just want to think about ways to remove those barriers whenever possible. That's all I want to say on that. And then I have a question, Harold, right before we leave, I guess. Because I haven't heard you speak about the female and male. Like, first of all, this is a very anonymous environment. So often I will look at the names and I'm like, actually, I don't know these people, and you didn't say who's female and male, but you also, you did the clans. And I'm wondering if you intend for clans to meet based on Turtle Wolf Bear, or if you intend for them to meet based on male, female Turtle Wolf Bear at this juncture. What was your vision for that?
No, yeah, it's to use the clan design, to use the the clan design in the tooling. The protocols, right, of Turtle, Wolf, and Bear include the autonomous processes. So yeah, we want to encourage folks to have the all female wolves, all and